Okay, let's hope the microphone's in the right place. Welcome, welcome, welcome back. Always special to practice in this way. Just because it's almost as though each of us is representing a different part of the world, a different space, a different room. It is said in many of the Eastern philosophies that in the beginning there was just one, and that one had no name, it had no label, it was the that I am that I am that Moses referred to. It was infinite, it had no beginning, it had no end. And then, as the story goes, it decided to divide itself in order to know itself. And and time and space was created. And each one of us, a part of this whole, each one of us sharing in our experience with this beingness, this presence that is who we truly are. In fact, a very nice way in which to begin today's practice and many of you are already familiar with it. It is by recognizing the three different parts there are to us. The first part is the easiest to recognize, and that is this body that you inhabit. And it is also a very important tool, this body, because this body is here in this present moment. And so it becomes your doorway into the eternal present moment, your very unique present moment, your magnificently perfect present moment, where you are surrounded by the walls of your room, where you are wearing a particular type of fabric that is your clothing, where you are seated on a particular seat or cushion or chair, where you are listening to a particular sound or combination of sounds. You are seeing for this eternal being that you are. You are smelling and you are tasting and you are listening and you are feeling the sensations. Not underestimating how precious any of these sensations are, or any of these sounds, or colors, or textures, because everything before you and within you is exactly as it should be. If you like, touch the seat that you're on, acknowledge it. You might even see the walls around you and the comfortable, hopefully comfortable clothing that's on your body. And even if it's uncomfortable, it gives you the opportunity to feel sensation. And for that, you are grateful because your body is covered in very sensitive nerves that allows you to experience these sensations. And so, this is the first part to you, the body, which is so easy to recognize, to experience. And then the second part is the mind. And I refer to it as the second part because this whole practice is based on us gradually, through practice, recognizing that the mind is quite separate from the body. Which is why we experience so many of our challenges and our problems. Because the mind travels back into the past, moving through its memory banks and reliving events and experiences and conversations from the past. Some of them good, some of them less so. And another way in which to recognize the mind is to simply look at your present moment and notice whether you are complaining about anything in this moment. Whether you are here in your room or in the supermarket aisle or caught in a traffic jam or in a crowded train, the moment you find yourself complaining, your mind, not yourself, the moment you find your mind, which is your personality, complaining about some aspect of the present moment, you know that it is holding on to some other moment in the past which it would like to return to. Perhaps a clear road if you were stuck in a traffic jam. Perhaps a quieter train, an empty train if you were in a crowded train. And in this moment, as you sit and practice, it might be the car alarm that's going off outside your window or the barking dog down the street. But don't worry. Just observe the mind. Observe those little things that your mind might be complaining about and just recognize this as the nature of the mind. You might also notice how it travels through space. It can be anywhere in the world it wants to be, even in a different home or a different place or a different country, different geographical location. So, are you beginning to see how the mind is very much an independent and separate entity? Now, the secret to this practice is to give your mind permission to move. Give it permission to think and to dance and be good and be naughty. Sorry, I just unmuted somebody. So just even that little interruption, can you notice how it activated your mind? It startled you out of the practice. That is the nature of the mind. So when we allow the mind to behave in this way, to move, to think, to dance, to shift, it becomes like a kite that is attached to the device that you're holding, and it begins to soar and more. And as you practice, with each practice, you unwind the string or the thread that is attached to this device that you are holding, creating more and more space between you who are in the present moment and the mind. And as most of you have noticed in your lives, the environment around you is constantly changing. Just like someone accidentally hitting the unmute button, relationships come, relationships go. That has an effect on the mind. Our bodily conditions, they change. And that has an effect on the mind, which attempts to hold on to things, the past, our finances. What we are practicing is allowing, giving permission for the kite to dance, to move in the winds of change. And one thing you'll notice about the kite is as the winds of change begin to carry it, it begins to get further and further and further and further away, with more space, so much more space. And then this brings you to the third part of who you are, who you truly, truly are. It cannot really be described using words because it has no beginning. It was never born because it is eternal. It has no end. It can never die because it is, again, eternal. And it is not confined to the room that you are in this moment. It is here with me and Assisi. It is in every one of your rooms. You are in every one of those windows that you see on the computer screen all around the world. And beyond, no boundaries, no borders. It is the one. If you need words to describe it, I think the best words are words like kindness, because it recognizes ourselves and all of those around us. It recognizes that we are within the leaf and the blades of grass, and all of our fellow practitioners in this virtual meditation room, and in the refugee camps, and in the prisons, and in the strange lands that we know almost nothing about. Beyond time, beyond space. That which has no words. But that's quite a lot for the mind to take because it's beyond the mind. Which is why the practice from this point becomes very simple. Because all you need to do in order to experience this kindness, this love without conditions that permeates through every atom and molecule, that makes up all of the people on this planet and all of the animal kingdom and the plant kingdom, and the earth itself, and the oceans and the waters, and the clouds and the skies, and the suns and the moons and the stars. All we need to do is to share in the present moment. Because irrespective of our pasts, each and every one of us here, we have a different history, a different story. But we have one thing in common: the present moment. And we share this present moment with every blade of grass, every leaf, every sun flare that is currently emanating from the sun, and stars, which amount to more than one can ever count. And it even gets simpler because you return back to your body and you pick and choose any one of the senses that becomes your window, your doorway into this moment that we are sharing here. Now, since we are in a group practice, why don't we all use the breath? Let's begin with the breath. Precious, precious, flow, cold breath. And you can even break it down even further. Just focus on the in-breath. Focus on the sensations. Because you're all in different parts of the world, there are different atoms and molecules around you, a different temperature, a unique temperature. When you breathe in, feel the temperature of your room. As you invite it into and through your nostrils. Can you feel the air brushing against the soft, sensitive, and moist skin lining within your nasal passage? Follow the breath a little bit deeper in as it moves through your throat and into the chest, into the lungs. Notice how, as the lungs balloon, you feel your rib cage rising, rising. And on top of your rib cage, the muscle and the skin. And on top of the skin, the fabric of your clothing. Now follow the breath even deeper down into your stomach. And at this point, begins breathing primarily through your stomach, which means your chest moves less, while the insides of your stomach balloon, making the stomach wall rise and push against the fabric of your clothing. I've just been reading a book by a Tibetan nun, and she's teaching me how to breathe. She asks us to breathe primarily through our stomachs, reasoning that it oxygenates the lungs even more because of gravity, because of the way in which gravity brings most of the blood to the lower part of the chest. So when we breathe into the stomach, it reaches so much more of the blood through the diaphragm. Watch, experience stomach wall rising. And of course, when you breathe out, stomach wall falling. As the air makes its way out again, up your throat, down the nasal passage, through the nostrils. Or is it one nostril? Which nostril? Can you feel the warmth and humidity of the breath? flowing down and out. Sensations of air flowing in and out. If you find yourself becoming bored, you know you've started thinking about the breath. And once you realize or become aware that you are thinking about the breath, release. The thinking part and return more deeply into the sensation, the experience. If you were breathing for the first time, how curious, how interested, how enthusiastic would you be about the breath that was just about to flow in? Because in the present moment, you are breathing for the first time. Because with every breath that you release, you also release the past, everything about the past. 1 minute ago, 1 hour ago, 1 year ago, all of it. You breathe in, a fresh and new beginning, because that is what every moment is, truly. Unless we hold on to the past, which we often do. But that is why we're here, to practice. From this moment into this. You might hear noise in my background. I can hear children. I can hear my neighbor walking up the stairs. Maybe it's that perfect moment for a listening meditation. Listening to the sounds of this present moment. What are the first sounds that you notice? Well, coming from my microphone, you might notice the sound of the bell, my voice, and then within your own room, you might hear the ticking of a clock or the something else, traffic outside your window. What is the first thing that you notice, the first sound? And what is the second sound? And what is the third sound? Can you notice how many layers there are? How it's a symphony that appears to surround us, a symphony of sounds. As you've so often heard me describe it, but now shift your attention to the last sound that you didn't notice. When I say the last sound, I mean the sound that you didn't notice at all. The humming of your fridge or freezer, the faint humming of a fan or a radiator or your computer fan, or even your breath. Or maybe it's the silence. You begin to recognize how you normally notice the sounds that you either like or dislike first. These are the sounds in the foreground. Voices, aeroplanes, television sets, voices from the radio, but you rarely notice the sounds that matter very little to you. Those neutral, sounds which you have very few opinions about. Now try to shift your attention to these neutral sounds. If you don't think you have neutral sounds around you, then the silence that is created in between the words that I speak. The silence from which every sound emerges and arises from. If you want to understand the significance of this, you don't have to open your eyes, but you need only to recognize that you are surrounded by walls and furniture and a ceiling and some flooring, but we often miss the most important part in this mix, and that is the space, the invisible space. The very reason the walls were built, the very reason the ceilings and the flooring was created, the very space that you are breathing in and out. Is it not profound? Is the silence not profound? The deafening silence from which all sound arises, lingers ever so briefly, and then disappears. Now that my environment is quiet again, let us bring our attention back to our breath. And breathe as though every breath was a delicious breath, savoring, appreciating, even enjoying. In this process, our most precious of gifts. Be a little bit more conscious and breathe through your stomach. Breathing in as deeply as you can. And breathing out as slowly as is comfortable. As we experience every breath, let us remind ourselves, let us release an intention that made this practice in breath awareness be with us as we use our cars, as we walk through the supermarket aisles, as we walk through on the pavements in front of our homes and in our parks. For it is the awareness that we seek to cultivate. Not to meditate, not to hold certain postures, not to even hold on to the quiet stillness, but the awareness of the stillness, of the silence, of the quiet. And the awareness of the turbulence and the movements and the dance of the mind, which is very much like the wind, sometimes blowing, and when it stops, it is still. But let us be the tree that witnesses, begin visualizing your hands and your arms and your fingers becoming branches of a great tree whose trunk is your body. Your shoulders and your chest and your backs and your stomachs and your pelvic regions and your legs, parts of this tree. If your mind is thinking, you can dance with the winds that represent your thoughts and your mind that is sometimes quiet and still, that is sometimes stormy and windy. But return back to your breath and breathe in deeply, visualizing the breath as a light that is moving in through your nostrils, flowing down your trunk, finding the roots, which are your legs. Can you feel the bend around your knee? It bends like the roots of a tree. But with one deep breath, allow the roots of this tree to move deep into the earth, underneath you, steadying, anchoring, grounding, earthing. As you breathe in now, this light, visualize this light spreading through the roots, deep into the earth, stabilizing, holding, embracing, the earth embracing you. In a way that you know with certainty it will never let go. You feel supported. Now, witness the way in which you experience the changing weather patterns, the changing light as day becomes night and night, day, as you enter into the changing seasons. Notice how tempting it is because of all the sunshine that we have been seeing, and the flowers, and the bird song, and the happy squirrels. Notice how tempting it is to label this season as a good or better season than the last. But that is the voice of the wind and the breeze and the mind. For as you breathe in, as you experience your roots and the tree, this pillar of truth, you experience a space beyond judgment, beyond likes, beyond dislikes, as you appreciate spring, no longer attempting to hold on to it, as it becomes summer and autumn or fall, where the leaves begin to turn yellow and red and brown and fall. The winds, they whisper that they do not like, they do not want, they resist. But you take yet another deep breath, entering into the space of allowing, beyond likes, beyond dislikes, beyond judgment of good or bad, as you appreciate the changing colors and the movement and the shift. allowing this moment in its entirety, giving permission to this moment, embracing it entirely and unconditionally. Experience the smile on your lips. It is a knowing smile, an allowing smile. As we hear the final bell, marking a profound and magnificent continuation to the practice, which may involve movement and food and things to see and listen to and movements. From moment to moment and one breath to the only breath.